Back when I was younger, I always thought what it would be like to experience the joy in collecting model trains. If you were young like me, you probably grew up with ranges like Trackmaster and Wooden Railway. But for years, I always found it incredibly satisfying watching a detailed scale engine navigating the tracks with a long line of coaches behind it. So today I decided to make a video of going through every model I own in my collection. But before we begin, I would just like to mention that I don't own a lot of stuff, mainly because I'm kind of on a tight budget, but in the future I might collect more engines in rolling stock, since Thomas and Duck are the only characters I own in HO scale. So for this video, I found it more appropriate to look at the Thomas stuff for last, and take a look at this guy first. The reason is that this model is very special to me for being the first ever Hornby steam engine I ever owned. As you all know, this is a Hornby Great Western Castle. This engine's name is Earl Cairns, and I think I got this off of Hatton's for £55, which I think was a steal. Here is its tender also, and I wanted this to be my first model engine since the Castle class engines are just my favorite Great Western 460s, and I just think they're stunning locomotives. I got this model back in August of 2023, and it was basically pre-owned as it was described in the listing, but it looked brand new when I took it out of the box since everything was intact. The paint right here, I think like this is called like the railing or something, I don't know, it's kind of worn, but I don't really mind. Everything else looks great. I really do like the nameplate, and in the light the paint kind of glistens, and so do the wheels, which makes it look realistic. And the dome, I think it's made of plastic, but I don't mind that. It looks good as well, and so does the copper chimney on the top, which is something that a lot of Great Western engines have. This model isn't also like Hornby's newer Castle class engines, where it has like the tender pickups, and there's also wiring between the tender and the locomotive, since underneath like the tender I don't think there are any pickups. I think energy is mainly just stored in the engine. So yeah. Here is also a picture of the real locomotive. Next we have probably the worst model in my collection. This is a Hornby 3F, and if you don't know, this came in one of the Trying Remembered train sets. This was from the Crash train set, and I honestly hate this model because the performance on this thing is very poor. Every time I ran this engine, it would always stall on the tracks, it would never run properly, and the motor was just flawed. I never actually took this model apart because I'm not like an expert of handling model trains, but I got this because I think the finish on this looked quite impressive. This has like a new chassis, but the tooling isn't really like any different. It's basically kind of like the same as what Hornby produced like back in the 50s, which is when I think it's how long this model has been produced. But yeah, honestly, kind of a disappointing engine. Next we have the most expensive model in my collection, which is the Hornby A1. This came in this was a part of the centenary for the Big Four, which was like the 100th anniversary of the Grouping Act, where they took like all the railway companies and combined it into 4 big ones. And I really like this model, mainly for the fact that it has like a die-cast running plate. It has such a realistic finish to it, and it's just a very detailed model. It has sprung buffers and everything. I really like this model. There's also the nameplate. This engine's name is Hermit, and I mean, honestly, the reason why model trains would just be so expensive nowadays is because, like, look at that cab detailing. Like, it just looks so good. Like, you just never see anything like that. And it also does have the firebox glow. I did make a video on this model, which is why I'm not like gonna fully talk about it, because you'll find more details about this on my review of this model. There's also the tender, and this is also Hornby's newest release of A1s, where it has like this new connection system, which I really think is just much better than the old system, where it's just like the wires connected like between the loco and the tender, and you can't really disconnect them. So yeah, I really do enjoy watching this engine going around my layout, pulling a long line of coaches, because it's just really satisfying. And I mean, it's honestly, since I don't have like a Hornby Gordon, this is satisfying enough to watch run around my layout. Here is also a picture of the Relay 1. So we're coming up to the end here, and I think the fourth locomotive we'll be looking at is the Bachman Duck. I think this is one of Bachman's best models, mainly because this replicates the TV prop so well. The only negative I have to say about this are the buffers, which are just fully painted black, so that's a little bit lazy, but the rest of this guy is just absolutely stunning. I really like the face. It looks, I don't know what face this was modeled after, but this looks exactly like what you would see in the TV series. And overall, like, the shape of this engine just looks exactly like the TV series. I really like the coal. It has like this kind of sparkly like finish to it, which makes it look nice and realistic. I'm also glad Bachman decided to model this after the TV series prop instead of the CGI version, since I think the CGI version of Duck doesn't really look that great. But honestly, I would give this a 9 out of 10, since this model is basically just almost perfect. And last but not least, we of course have Thomas. Now, I think we can all agree that this is definitely one of the models that Bachman needs to upgrade in their Thomas range. Mainly the face. I don't think giving it new eyebrows is going to change anything. It's also the paint. I think that needs a change too. Something more like accurate to the model series. I think the tone of this paint is a little too light, and I think the lamp on this is just horrible. I think that definitely needs an upgrade. But yeah, Hornby, I meant Bachman have produced this Thomas in the range for over like 20 years, and they very unfortunately have not made any changes whatsoever. It's not a terrible model, but it's just lacking in upgrades, in my honest opinion. I've seen literal modelers on Twitter that make 3D printed faces for their engines, and it's just laughable, like, seeing that Bachman haven't made any changes, and there are fans who are just like making like new custom 3D prints of Thomas that just look miles better. Anyways, that is all of the engines I have in my model collection. It'll continue to grow at some point, but I do have some rolling stock if you guys have watched any of my other videos, but I'm not going to be talking about them since it's mainly just the engines I wanted to focus on in my collection. But anyways, that marks the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed, comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.